Hello, and thank you for joining me here on this webinar. For those of you who are in the U.S. and are attending live, it is your first day back in the office after what I hope was a glorious 3-day weekend, a holiday weekend. So welcome back. I have a little something special to thank you for being here live, bright and early after a 3-day weekend. Today, what I'd like to talk about is this difference between mentoring and coaching, and there really is a difference, but so often these terms, these two words, get really mixed up in the business world. But the truth is that the terms mentoring and coaching, they're not interchangeable. Emerging leaders and frontline contributors, they want both mentoring and coaching. And you can improve employee engagement, retention, and productivity by understanding the differences and then ensuring that you have both mentoring and coaching available to members of your team. Before we dive into that any deeper, let me properly introduce myself. I'm Deb Calvert. I'm the author of the bestseller Discover Questions, Get You Connected, and of the award-winning blogs Connect to Lead, Connect to Win, and Connect to Sell. And based on that sentence alone, you may have guessed that connections are very, very important to me. So I'd truly be honored if you'd connect with me on LinkedIn or Twitter or Google+. My handle, it's on screen there along with my email address. My company is People First Productivity Solutions. We build organizational strength by putting people first. And I work as an executive coach, a meeting facilitator, trainer, and consultant to help people improve their connections and to help organizations improve their people practices. So coaching and mentoring, these are important components of a people-first environment. In the past, I've been a corporate HR director with a Fortune 500 company. I've worked with many, many HR, L&D, and OD professionals since opening my company in 2006. And my talk today, it's based on observations over the past decade and on recent research that suggests we really need to spotlight this particular topic. For those of you who are new to Bright Talk, please let me point out a couple of important features for you. First of all, please notice that link. It's in the upper left corner of your screen. It's called Attachments. And attachments have lots of goodies. I've included several bonus resources for you there. There's one that's extra special. It's today only. It's for HR professionals who are attending live. It's an offer for a brand new workbook. In fact, this is a pre-order. It's called HR Hacks. This is from Lori Kleiman and the folks over at HR Topics. And what this is it's a workbook, but you can download customizable forms when you purchase the workbook so that you can make them your own. You can make them highly relevant for your own organization. It's one of the coolest products I've seen in the HR space in a very long time. So please note that there's an attachment for that and a special offer, lots of freebies, and a $30 savings when you pre-order, and all of that is only there today for those attending live. Okay, so the other thing about Bright Talk that you might like to know is that you can subscribe to this channel, and if you do, you'll get more content from me every month. Bright Talk makes it really easy to stay on top of what's new and what's relevant for you. All right, well, enough of the commercial stuff. Back to the business at hand. You came to hear about mentoring and coaching, so let's get right back over to that topic. There are a lot of reasons to offer mentoring and coaching, and I'm going to try to consolidate those into just the 40 minutes or so that we have together. I say 40 because I want to leave some time at the end for your questions. You can go ahead and type your questions into me at any time. If I don't answer them in the flow of the presentation, I will certainly get to them at the end. So go ahead and add those at any point that it makes sense for you. But among the many reasons to offer mentoring and coaching is this, what I consider to be the number one reason. It's the retention of your high potential talent. See, it's not as easy as it used to be to go out and find talent and bring it into your organization. you've got to develop talent inside your organization because the competition for the talent outside your organization is really getting steep, and it's only going to get tougher as baby boomers age out. By the way, there's another webinar on this channel. It's called They'll Be Planted Where They Grow, and it's about this particular topic, about all sorts of ways that you can grow the people inside your organization to improve retention. But, you know, what you see here on screen, I think this is what is being experienced. This is worldwide, and it's just this. The employees who you might be considering high potentials, the ones who you could see as the next generation leaders of your company, if they're unsatisfied with the development efforts in your company, they won't stay. They'll leave you, and you're back to square one. So to me, that's the number one reason to think about mentoring and coaching, because let's face it, we do need to retain people, and we do need to be preparing them for those next level jobs. This retention issue, it's big. It's only going to get bigger. There's an increasingly competitive job market that's taking shape, and these are some scary numbers. When we think about millennials, that's the generation behind baby boomers. Baby boomers are aging out of the workforce. Millennials are the next generation to fill those shoes, and by 2020, two-thirds of them think that they're going to leave the organization where they are right now. Because of that, 93% of executives are highly concerned about the lack of leaders who are being developed. So with all that's happening, it does beg two questions. Where will you be going for people if this is happening everywhere? Where will you go for people because they're not getting developed anywhere? And then how sustainable is that revolving door for you? How much money are you spending on filling jobs, onboarding people, training them a little bit functionally, only to see them leave and take that experience and that investment with them? And if the torch isn't being passed inside your own organization, you're also losing institutional knowledge and workplace culture. And if you can't keep going outside the organization to recruit people, where do they come from? Because remember, their bosses are concerned about the lack of development of those people who are somewhere else, too. So the way I see it is this. You must develop people, and you must retain people. It's just critical to the future of your company in ways that have never been experienced to such a large scale before. And a good place to start would be to get sort of to the underlying causes of why millennials want to leave their current organizations. By the way, let me mention another webinar that's on this channel. If you're looking for help, if you're looking to get the C-suite to support your leadership development efforts, including mentoring and coaching, there's also a webinar on this channel which is about exactly that, how to talk to the C-suite executives, how to build the business case and show the ROI on leadership development. As an executive coach, I work with a lot of the folks in the C-suite, so I'm using that knowledge to try to frame this up. Well, when it comes to employee turnover, the top causes, the reasons that people are leaving, is that they sense that there are limited opportunities for them to grow. And they're a little bored. They're not feeling the challenge that they think they are meriting within their current role. So this desire for development and this boredom factor, that's what we have to tackle. And you tackle boredom by giving people a challenge, and then giving people a challenge stimulates them and engages them. And people who are stimulated and engaged, they emotionally get committed to an organization, and that's the organization that they want to stay with. Now, making this case, I have to tell you, part of it's already made for you. This graphic, which comes from Deloitte University Press in some research that they do every year, if you look to the dot that's on the farthest right-hand side of this grid, what that is telling you is the level of urgency that C-suite executives are placing on these various human capital needs. And the number one, the one that's furthest over to the right, is leadership development. There's urgency that people in the executive chairs are already expressing. They know that this is important. And on the vertical axis of this grid is the readiness of organizations. So fairly low readiness to develop leaders, but fairly high urgency. That's your opportunity. If you are in HR or if you're a frontline manager who can make a contribution to developing next-level leaders, a huge value to your organization. Take a look at the thing that is just up and to the left, and that's also on the minds of executives. A lot of urgency, not a lot of readiness, and that bullet says retention and engagement. Well, we know that we retain and engage people by stimulating them, challenging them, giving them some development. So this is a 2-for-1. You can tackle 2 human capital needs inside your organization if you take a look at some great practices related to both, not either or, but both mentoring and coaching. Now, what I'd like to do next is take these one by one. Let's start with mentoring. And let's just first talk about why. Why mentoring, and why think about that now, at this point in time. I've already said that I believe this is an essential piece of the retention and leadership development puzzle because of what it solves for. If you're mentoring people, you're going to have an opportunity to develop those who are being mentored, the mentees. But the nice thing about mentoring is that it also develops, stimulates, and engages the folks who are doing the mentoring. So you have an opportunity to develop capacity throughout the organization and to dually stimulate and engage people at various levels. And the organizational strength that comes from that expanded capacity and the institutional knowledge and the business acumen and the workplace culture that those who are doing the mentoring can pass along, the benefits just continue to multiply out of all of that. The why now question, we've talked some about this. It really boils down to the fact that right now the need is greater than ever to develop and retain your talent, the people who are already inside your organization, because it's harder to get people from outside. You're starting from square one because they didn't get that development elsewhere. So you can get leaders at every level through mentoring, and you can also begin to have cross-pollination of ideas because mentoring doesn't have to be, in fact, I don't think it should be within a silo. It's a great way to cross-pollinate ideas, to have cross-cultural learning between functions, and to be able to expand the capacity by getting people outside their own singular function. So I'd like to sort of frame up, as we talk about the value of mentoring, let me frame up what it is just a little differently than you might have thought of it before. And I'm going to go back in history to give you some thoughts about the evolution of mentoring. The first known use of the word, I really like word origins, so the first known use of the word mentor was in its Greek form in the Odyssey. We're talking way back in 1200 BC, and in the Odyssey, written by Homer, there was a loyal advisor to Odysseus. Odysseus, remember, was on the great journey, the Odyssey. So as Odysseus prepared for his journey, this loyal advisor was entrusted with the care and education of Telemachus. Telemachus was the son of Odysseus. And mentor was a guardian and role model to the son of our hero, Odysseus. So mentor was mentoring Telemachus. And in ancient Greek times, this was not at all an uncommon practice. It was customary for boys to be paired with older males. These mentors were chosen by the boy's father, and the criteria for choosing mentor was that he had values and an example similar to what the father would provide. And it was a very great honor to be chosen as this type of an advisor. See, this aspect that I'm describing of mentoring, it's a really, really important one. These mentoring relationships were based on a fundamental principle of human survival, because humans, we learn skills and culture and values directly from other humans that we look up to and admire. So modeling and mentoring, it's actually found throughout history. Think about now the Middle Ages, where craft guilds were set up to structure the professional development of merchants and lawyers and goldsmiths and so on. What we had there in those craft guilds, we had an apprentice who worked with a master. And the master was considered excellent in the given trade. The apprentice both worked with and even lived with the master, working up to a journeyman level and eventually to become a master in his own right. Now, keep going up in history, we come into early industrial societies, and it's at that point where we shifted to what we see today, these employer-employee relationships. And at that point in time, mentoring was no longer the priority. The long-term development of employees was no longer the focus. And what we were left with was more of an informal mentoring, often initiated by the mentee. And there are lots of examples of those kinds of partnerships. Think George Washington and Alexander Hamilton. Think Diana Ross and Michael Jackson. The art community has maintained a dedication to mentoring. But it's all informal. Even though it's critical to an artist's position and success, there's no formal structure to it. And now that brings us to today. And today, because of what's going on with millennials, there's a renewed interest in mentoring, and it's largely driven by millennials who are not afraid to ask for what they need. To sort of get out of the old school thinking about what mentoring is, let's talk about what it isn't. Mentoring isn't like it used to be in the craft guild days. It's not a single mentor with a single mentee. And it's not even necessary for it to be the older, wiser mentor with a young, new mentee. This is no longer Odysseus and Telemachus and mentor. Mentoring doesn't even have to be long-term, and it shouldn't be parental. Mentoring instead has lots of variations, and what will help you to think most importantly about mentoring is this. Mentoring should be done by the person who has the superior level of knowledge in a singular skill. I would be your mentor, and I would be teaching you if I knew more about a particular skill than you did, if I had more knowledge or experience about this one thing. And in reverse, although you might be considerably younger than me, you might be mentoring me in the places where you've got superior knowledge and skills. Just like my 18-year-old son is my mentor when it comes to the latest, greatest social media things that are happening. And that's the difference now between mentoring, and it's a pivotal difference to think about if you're to build something out in your organization. I'll come back to describe this a little bit more in depth shortly, but let me also say that if you are interested in building an internal mentoring program, I've given you a link. It's a place where you can register for a wholly different webinar. It's over on Paycor site. They do coffee breaks, and they're having a summit in March. And I'll be presenting there. You can even get HRCI or SHRM credit available there if you sign up. So that one's all about how to build an internal mentoring program. Okay. So that's what mentoring isn't. Let's flip over to talk about coaching, and then after we talk about coaching, we'll come back and contrast the two of them a little bit more explicitly. So coaching, again, why do it and why do it now? See, coaching, we said before, it's not the same as mentoring at all, but these two words get blurred. These two roles often become combined in one, and the benefit of both get lost. They get diluted when that happens. So that's why I'm spending this time to call out these differences. See, coaching, the benefits of it, well, just like mentoring, it can expand individual capacity. It can make people more autonomous and capable on their own. And just like mentoring, you can expand your organizational strength and develop your culture too. And what I'm talking about when I say that is coaching for the development of people, not coaching for performance. So everybody's able to get coaching. Everybody has opportunities to develop. That's what the coaching focuses on. Whereas mentoring focuses on learning skills that somebody else already has, coaching is more about maximizing your own potential. It's about promoting some self-discovery and cross-applying things that you already know to goals that you're looking to reach. Coaching, by the way, lots of great research about the ROI on coaching. It delivers a 7 times return on investment when it's done right. So there's some pretty compelling cases that you can make around coaching. And when you have coaching in your organization, just like mentoring, people can become informal coaches to each other. So what is this thing, this coaching? Let's talk about the evolution of business coaching, because you probably, when you think of coaching, you might be thinking about sports coaching or coaching that you've received in other places. But workplace coaching, it actually comes from the Old English word which meant one who guides. Back in the day, a coach, that was like the vehicle that you used to carry someone. At Oxford, the school, coach was a derogatory term for a teacher who carried a student rather than challenging the student. So not thinking of it in that vehicle sense, but it evolved to become one who guides. So instead of carrying you, I am guiding you. And then the Latin word, which had a similar origin, that actually evolved to mean to extract from someone. So think about guiding and extracting when you think about coaching. So teachers can be coaches. It's different, though, from sports coaching, which actually is more like what we've described here as mentoring. And I also want to frame this up so you're thinking about coaching people for their own development as opposed to coaching them for their performance. That's what managers do, getting the work done today. Now, it's important for the coachee, the person being coached, to buy into all of this so that they don't see it as punitive or see it as another tool for performance management. If you're not sure if someone in your organization is ready for coaching, if it's the right solution for them, or for you for that matter, I've also given you an attachment that's a coaching self-assessment. What you might think about using that for is as a way to help people opt into coaching and to prepare for coaching that's framed up as a way for them to develop. So please help yourself to that tool. All right, now the contrast. Let's make sure that we're getting some clarity between the differences here. Mentoring, I think it's really nicely, aptly described here from a nice little book, 7 Keys to Successful Mentoring, that it is intentional, that it is focused on developing, and that there's a relationship that forms between the mentor and the mentee. And as I said, you've got this person who's more experienced or more knowledgeable in one particular area, and that person is the mentor to the person who's less experienced and less knowledgeable in a particular area. So this is why you could have multiple mentors or different mentors at different times in your career, depending on what it is that you want to learn. Compare that to coaching. Coaching, according to Tim Galloway, who wrote the book The Inner Game, and he was working with Sir John Whitmore, sort of the grandfather of business coaching, and he described coaching as unlocking people's potential to maximize their own performance. That's helping them learn rather than teaching them. Mentors teach, coaches help learn. And Sir John Whitmore, I thought he had a great analogy that comprehensively defines business coaching. He says that coaching is that we're like acorns. Inside each of us is already the potential to be a mighty oak tree. It's already there. We just need to be nourished and encouraged and exposed to light so we can grow into our full potential. By contrast, mentoring it's a behaviorist construct, and mentoring sort of views us as an empty vessel into which knowledge can be poured. And that's not to suggest that it's an either-or determination. That's totally situational and individual. As a longtime business coach and a frequent mentor, I happen to believe that all of us need a little bit of each. We are both empty vessels in some places where we need experience and knowledge, and we are acorns with that mighty oak tree inside of us. So having the option to access both mentoring and coaching, I know it's helped me personally to accelerate in my own growth, and I've seen the duality of that work wonders for a whole lot of people over the years. Okay, a little bit more about these differences. Right, mentors, they teach what they already know. They have subject matter expertise. Coaches don't. Coaches don't have to know anything at all about a subject matter. I've coached lots of people who do jobs that I don't even understand. The engineers, the accountants, the IT professionals over the years that I've coached, I can't begin to pretend I understand what their job actually entails. But I can be very effective in helping them discover what they already know and can apply in different ways. Not because I tell them. In fact, I'm probably better as a coach because I can't tell them. But I have coaching expertise. I know how to help them discover their own solutions and to cross-apply what they already know. You know, we should probably talk about managers. We haven't done that yet because the work of mentoring and coaching so often falls on managers. That's where this blurred line comes into play. See, managers, if we're looking at their true function, what they do is they get work done through other people. They coordinate the processes, they get the resources, they focus primarily on performance, the short term, and less on development, the long term. But we might add this to their plate. We might say in some businesses that managers are responsible for the long-term growth and development of people. And when we do, I hope we also give them the tools, the teaching to understand what it looks like to mentor, the skills that are required to be an effective coach, or the outside resources to go out and access coaches to help them with that. But we don't so often do that. What we instead do is we sort of bucket all of this under the role of manager without providing any clarity. I'm going to add a fourth one here because not only do we ask people as managers to handle today's work, not only do we ask them to mentor, that is to advise and teach, but we also ask them to coach, to extract and get people to their full potential, and we even ask them to be in the role of teacher or trainer, to condition people to get better and better and better at what they do. Frankly, it's for most people, it's too much. They don't have these skills, all four of them, naturally. They barely understand the difference between them, so they default to one of the four. And what people default to is typically what they are most comfortable with. So if they've had great examples of coaches over the years, they might themselves be excellent coaches. But is that enough? Is that still getting the work done today that they have to handle? Is that conditioning people and strengthening them and advising them, or is it only developing them for the future? Which, by the way, if I had to choose, that's the one I'd still choose if it had to be singular. But we want to equip managers or set it up in an organization that you have a culture of lots of people who are able to mentor and coach, because that's what's going to work best to engage employees and to build a robust learning culture that retains employees too. If forced to choose, we've got to think about what is it that says, when am I going to be the trainer, when am I going to be the coach, the manager, the mentor? I might consider that you think about the individual needs and also the situation. So just one simple way to think about this is where am I focusing and what's the format? And there are a couple of choices here. Is the format going to be one-on-one over on the left side, or is it going to be I'm working with a group, signified by the G over on the right-hand side? And then what's the focus? Is the focus on I'm imparting my abilities, you're imparting your abilities? That's what mentors do, that's what managers do. And those are the two on the bottom with the YA. Or are you focusing on their abilities, on extracting and cross-applying and building from what they already know and do? And what you then have are four different choices that can help you to decide if this is a time for coaching, a time for mentoring, or training and managing. And all four are valid choices. The point is that you want people to be equipped so that they're not stuck in any one or two of these boxes. So back to mentoring and coaching, right? What do mentors actually do? Mentors teach. Mentors advise. And I've already mentioned to you that that's on a singular skill where the mentor has a superior level of experience or knowledge, and the mentee is looking for that advice from the mentor for that reason. One of the mistakes that gets made is that we appoint mentors or we pick mentors for ourselves because they have a job that we aspire to have someday. Well, in this fast-changing world, as you know, jobs often change. So whoever's sitting in that seat today might not have the technical experience, not all of it, that you need to grow into that role. And isn't that a little self-limiting anyway, to look at the career path as a straight-up progression? More and more jobs no longer look for that in the people that they promote. They want more cross-functional business acumen. They want new ideas and innovation and cross-pollination of ideas. So going out and finding mentors, or if you do this organizationally, systematically, you might decide even to assign mentors from outside a particular function so that people can go get that technical skill from multiple mentors. They get different skills. Mentors provide their own advice on how they've progressed in their career, on the work that they do. They provide some resources. Maybe they allow for some job shadowing and observation. What a mentor is doing is helping to connect the dots between the development work for this individual who they are mentoring and how this builds the organizational strength in the long term. Really good mentors, they also ask questions and they assign a little extra independent work that's unique to the mentee so that the mentee can not get just the same teaching that everybody else gets, but can get the most relevant and actionable teaching that will help them continue to go next level. Coaches do entirely different things. The way that coaches teach is that they're promoting self-discovery. They're really great question askers. They focus on taking what the coachee already knows and facilitating that old knowledge being applied in new ways. So they ask probing, thoughtful questions around the goals, around the current situation, around some options for doing things differently, and around some action planning. It's a four-part model. And when coaches are asking those kinds of questions, facilitating that kind of self-discovery, taking people from goal to action plan, what they're doing is they're slowing down what typically happens. It's no longer a reactive approach to work. It becomes a more thoughtful, strategic approach that brings in lots of other ideas and lots of other perspective. Coaching is the safe haven. Coaching is the place where you go to work out these challenges, and that's not always comfortable to do with your manager who's looking for you to perform and deliver results in the short term. It's also not really comfortable to do this with a mentor because the mentor has superior subject matter expertise. They already know the answers. Mentors tend to be a bit impatient as people work through the sorts of things that they work through with a coach. Because mentors already know the answers, because mentors have already made the mistakes, they can tell you what to do, and they're not as likely to let you work out for yourself how to do it. And what's limiting about that is that mentors, they know, but they also don't know, right? We're all constrained by what we know. When we're not allowing for discovery, there's no innovation, there's no opportunity to find better ways to do things. So you want to have both in your organization. And if you have coaching in your organization, again, remember it's really important to let people know that this is not only about performance. It's not even primarily about performance. Coaching shouldn't be a judgment that's placed on anyone. It should instead be open because coaching gets results. a lot of results. 7 times ROI is pretty well established, but coaching gets results when, it gets those kinds of results when the coach is very skilled and when the coachee is open. And when it's about development, not performance, meaning that coaching is for everyone. It's routine. It's a matter of how we do business. And we do this so much, we do this so well that we even have a coaching framework. It becomes the way of doing business for everyone to be simultaneously doing their work and learning new skills, developing their capacity, all at the same time, not separate. See, the other thing to think about here is that the person who wears the mentor hat and the person who wears the coach hat, they have different responses. And when your manager is wearing both hats, it's important for them to know how to put on a particular hat, to communicate which of the hats that they're wearing, and then to stay true to that particular response. Otherwise, it can get confusing. But situationally, I've given you 3 different situations here. For time's sake, I'll only take you through one, just to illustrate how different priorities lead to different responses. So let's say this is a sales organization, and the manager, mentor, coach, whichever it has been determined, is on a sales call and sees that the seller missed a buying signal. And now the sale is at risk because that seller's not closing. Well, a manager, a mentor, someone with superior subject matter expertise, the response is likely to be, I'm going to jump in, I'm going to take over, and I'm going to show you how to respond to that buying signal. Because every sale matters. I, too, the manager, get measured on these sales, so I'm going to make sure to demonstrate that in this moment to you. A coach won't do that. A coach sits back, observes, probably takes some notes, and then after the call, after the lost sale even, the coach will debrief to promote seller awareness and learning and to ask questions to get the seller to see things differently so that next time that buying signal will be recognized and the seller will have internalized what it is that could be done differently. The seller will be making those determinations and setting those goals rather than seeing a one-time demonstration. So that's why I say this has to be situational. Right? We would never dream of letting that sale be lost if this was a high-stakes sale that we absolutely needed in order to make our numbers. But that's not true with every sale, and we've got to allow for opportunities where we've got coaching situations. So we want the mentor who can be tactical and practical and immediate to help with performance, but we also want the coaching opportunities to break down some barriers and to get that seller thinking critically and devising their own solutions. Could be the same person wearing different hats at different times, or it may be different people, each using different strengths and styles. Some things to look for, especially if this is going to be different people. In a mentor, you want someone who does have the subject matter expertise and can be a very positive role model. Mentors ought to have interpersonal skills and be patient as teachers. They need to have some time to either allow people to job shadow them or to isolate the time to do the teaching. A mentor typically knows the organization and the players and the political environment and is highly respected. So you can get lots of gravitas from a mentor and lots of doors get open because of the mentoring. In a coach, you look for something a little different. You look for somebody who's a great observer, really good listener, somebody who won't jump in to solve a problem and to provide the answers, but will instead facilitate that self-discovery. Coaches have very high emotional intelligence because they're able to be restrained in all those ways, and they're able to challenge and stretch others. In a coach, you want someone who is skilled in coaching competencies, and there are certifications for that. The International Coach Federation has a construct. It's global, and it's all evidence-based. It makes a lot of sense. Okay, so let's talk about this in our remaining time. Let's talk about this very briefly. Organizationally, what you'd be looking for, you'd be looking to create a culture where you have both mentoring and coaching meaning that there's a high value placed on individual development. And in that culture, then you'd be open to reverse mentoring, you'd be making an investment in people, and that in return would get loyalty and longer-term retention. And this development would go up, down, sideways, horizontal, diagonal, vertical, all across the organization, because you'd be then getting an employee engagement situation that's entirely different from the low engagement epidemic that we're all experiencing today. Today in workplaces, we have very few people who are actively engaged, and that manifests in a variety of ways. Low engagement means reduced job satisfaction, reduced retention, reduced productivity levels, measurable impacts including suboptimum production output levels, low quality, poor customer satisfaction, resistance to change, increased expenses, and an inability to compete and profit at the levels you'd otherwise enjoy. In other words, this is really bad. This low engagement has terrible impacts. But the way we engage employees and boost employee engagement and get rid of all those problems, right? The things we have to do to get those obvious and well-documented benefits of employee engagement are this. Simply, we have to invest in our employees. We have to develop them. We have to coach them and mentor them, make it possible for them to see that they make a meaningful contribution to the organization. And when they see the organization that way, they will have a higher level of engagement. We know by evidence, and there's a whole other webinar on this if you want to see more details, we know, though, that employee engagement means that you will retain your high potential employees. They will be more emotionally invested in your company, and because of the emotional investment, they will then choose to apply additional discretionary effort to their work, which boosts productivity. It also boosts customer satisfaction, and that means you get both top-line revenue and bottom-line profit impacts that are positive, highly positive. And the only way that you unlock all of this and get the domino effect is you work on boosting employee engagement. The one thing that does that more than anything else is leadership development. It's coaching, and it's mentoring, and it's developing tomorrow's leaders as you develop today's leaders, the people who today can be mentoring and coaching. The last attachment that I have there for you is an employee engagement checklist. As I mentioned, there's another webinar about this, but I want to leave time to take a couple of questions. There's a few that have been posted here. And the last one, I'll take it first because it was about the data we were just looking at. Yes, that is all fact-based. All of those domino effect impacts are factual. There's a webinar about this on this channel. Another great resource for you is a book called Great Leadership Creates Great Workplaces. That book was written by Jim Kouzes and Barry Posner, and it's just packed full of the research that backs up what I was describing there. So a couple of resources you could turn to. Another person is asking me to repeat the information about how to create an internal mentoring program. There's an attachment for that. It will take you to a Paycor webinar that's already available on demand. There's also an upcoming Paycor webinar, so I encourage you to take a look at both of those. The one that's already posted, you could go to right away on demand, is about internal mentoring programs, how to build that aspect for low cost or no cost inside your own organization. And then the third question pertains to coaching. Yes, it is possible. It's possible to create a coaching culture and have coaches who you train inside your own organization. The best model is for all of your managers to develop some coaching skills. To do that requires partnering with someone or within HR, finding the people who already are strong coaches, who know coaching competencies and have that expertise. You can engage outside coaches, and in some cases that's absolutely appropriate to do. Or you can retain someone who helps to develop that skill across your organization. We do both here at People First Productivity Solutions. We'd be happy to help you. We have a number of different coaches, all certified. So depending on what your needs are, we'll help you find the right solution for a light touch of coaching on up to full coaching cadre if that's what you're looking for. But what we do here at People First Productivity Solutions is we build organizational strength by putting people first. We can help you with mentoring. We can help you with coaching. We can help you with the architecture of a complete program for leadership development. Or you can just join our Connect community and continue to get some of our free resources. We put those out there so that you can access what you need when you need it. At a minimum, please stay in touch with us and enjoy the resources that I've provided here today. Thanks for being a part of this webinar presentation.